have heard so many excuses now for the best part of a decade to why you cannot build muscle. So without getting nitty gritty and mega technical and mega sciencey, I'm literally just going to give you 4 of the needle movers which will ensure that you gain muscle. It's literally that simple. And if you are not doing any of them, that is exactly why you are not gaining muscle. If you are not doing one of them, then let me know in the comments below. And if you have a different 4 in which you prioritize to gain your muscle, then absolutely let me know in the comments. But my opinion, these are the most important, and you should have them in your arsenal if you have muscle building goals. For those of you that are new to the channel, welcome. My name is Paul Green. I'm the Longevity Strength Coach, and I'm a former British Paratrooper and Special Forces Support Group Operator. I've been very fortunate enough to be part of an elite performance bubble for over a decade, and I bring all of that experience to the party here. However, nowadays, I am fully online, and I run the Longevity Program, which is a laser-focused strength and conditioning service for men over the age of 40 that conduct extreme sports and martial arts, in order to keep them doing them things for as long as possible, as many decades as possible. Right, today, what I'm going to cover is the 4 most important things. I'm going to explain exactly why these are the most important things. And you may think it's pretty obvious, however, food, weekly volume, intensity, execution, right? So, give you enough information to give you a kick up the arse so you never overlook any of these 4 ever again. Right, gentlemen, it is absolutely crucial that you suck it up and figure out your daily output or your weekly output, how much calories you are required to consume every single day to maintain your current weight. If you want to gain muscle, you need to hit that as a minimum. However, I would recommend going 20%, 30%, 40% over that in order to gain weight. This gentleman here finished a 12-week block on the longevity program. He done Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for 10 hours a week. Minimum of 10 hours a week. If I didn't track his food intake, his weight sessions on top of that, to fuel high performance on his weight sessions and grappling, do you think he was going to lose weight? He had to eat 4,000 calories for the first month or so, and then that got up to 5,000 calories per day, because his output, the amount of fuel he was burning every day, because he runs his own gym, was ridiculous. If you do not do the calculations as a guide, if you don't appreciate that you need to eat a certain amount of food every day to gain muscle, then it's pointless. You're just guessing. Because some days you'll eat 3,000 calories, some days you'll eat 2,000, some days you'll eat 4,000. There will be some days where you lose weight in that scenario. There will be some days, if you don't do this properly, you don't track it, and you don't stick to it, a meal plan, you will lose muscle some days, you will gain muscle some days. If there's no consistency, if you are not taking this seriously as number 1, this is the number 1 priority. It needs to be done. One of the best bits of advice I said to one of my friends about 10 years ago, who blamed genetics. I'm just never going to gain muscle, genetics. I was like, mate, you need to track your calories, you need to track your food intake. Until you do that, you're absolutely failing yourself miserably. Everybody thinks that they eat healthy, but when you look at the numbers, because all it is a numbers game. When you actually look at the numbers and what you are burning, you will realise there is a perfectly logical reason to why you aren't getting this right. And the beauty of this is, you can change the plan a few weeks down the line if you aren't getting the results that you need. You can add more calories. You can reduce some cardio. You can add an extra gym session in. Numbers matter, and tracking the data makes a hell of a difference. Anyway, this guy was 91 kg here, and he finished 99 kg. Right. Volume. How many working sets do you do on certain muscles per week? Recent study, Joshua Pellard, a couple of months ago. rinse through loads of research to come up with these conclusions. The more volume you do, the more muscle you gain. Now, I know the comeback from that is like, do you not need to rest? Do you not need to recover? Well, it doesn't make a difference. It doesn't make as much of a difference as I previously thought before this study got released. When was it? 4th of the 10th, 2024. Minimum effective dose, 4 working sets on a certain muscle group per week. More than that, 5 to 10 sets will get you 50% less than the previous jump, which is obviously 100%. 11 to 18, you get 50% less than the one previous. And it keeps going, and you keep getting more muscle the more volume you do. However, this research paper accounts for fractional volume. For example, if you train your back, it would then include your biceps as being 0.5 of a trained muscle. Or, do you know what I mean? If you train your chest on a set, it will count your triceps and maybe your delts as a 0.5. So that'd be your weekly collective volume. And if you try your hardest to optimize, let's say, one muscle group or maybe 2 muscle groups to the higher categories of volume, you will gain the most muscle possible. Now, I'm not saying you can do this on every single muscle group. Absolutely no chance that you can do this on every single muscle group. For example, if you were looking to maintain, let's say your legs, 5 to 10 sets, absolutely fine. And then let's say your chest, your back, 5 to 10 sets. But if you were looking to really build your traps or arms, then you may be wanting to head down this path and get as much volume as possible. Also, little tricks that you can do to increase volume: drop sets, partial reps. It all counts. It all goes into the tank of volume. How many working sets are you doing on a muscle group per week? How can you increase that volume? The general consensus is there is a cap on volume, and you shouldn't do a certain amount of volume per week because then that'll become detrimental to your gains. That is only correct if you are training strength. The cap on strength is a maximum of 10 sets, because with strength, it's a little bit of a higher intensity, it hits your central nervous system a little bit more, and there is a detrimental effect on strength if you go over the 10 set range on a certain muscle group. With hypertrophy, it's not the case. This is a big paper. Check it out, gentlemen. So volume, the more you do, the more muscle you gain. Simple as that. And I know you don't like that. And I know it's a bitter pill to swallow because you're thinking recovery, you're thinking injuries, you're thinking overuse. Look, don't argue with me. Next thing, intensity. Right, now the research suggests, right, that the gold standard is 80 to 85% intensity. However, I've been a coach for 10, 12 years, and I know for a fact that nobody trains to the intensity that they think they do. They train a lot less intense than they actually think. So, what I say as a coach, aim for 90 and 95% intensity, and you will probably find that you are actually 80 to 85%, which is the gold standard. The reason I like to overshoot is because there's no detrimental effects to overshooting and going close to muscular failure. Because if you're doing reps for days and you fail on the certain rep, then it wouldn't actually be muscular failure if you fail to get a concentric rep, because you could then still do partials. There is still more in the tank. Then you could do partials again, literally a quarter of a rep. And then until you can't move that muscle anymore, that would be muscular failure. Now, I know for a fact none of you are doing that. Like I've only just started doing it just to try some stuff out for a couple of weeks. So what I'm saying is, if you aim for what you believe 90 to 95% is, you're probably hitting 80 to 85%. It sounds mental. However, trust me, you don't train as hard as you think you do. So if you aim for this, you'll probably cut it a little bit shorter and you'll be in the right bracket. The problem is, if you aim for 80 to 85% and then you go to 70 to 75%, you're pretty much doing a heavy warm-up set. And heavy warm-up sets do not move the needle, and that is not intense enough to gain muscle. Does that make sense? The next one, execution. Follow the fibers home. Every muscle fiber in your body is going in a certain direction. It is your job to figure out how to get that muscle fibre at the start point of the muscle, the origin or the insertion point, both of them points to close together to shorten the muscle and then to lengthen the muscle as often as possible, which links into range of motion. If most of your exercises in the gym are not working through a full range of motion, you are not working that muscle fully. If you do half reps, you get half of the gains. And it links into tempo as well. Because if you are training at a full range of motion, you should have control over the weight. But when you talk about tempo, there is 3 muscle contractions on offer here as well. You can go on the way down. If you control that on the way down, you are going to get a lot of muscle activation, a lot of muscle breakdown, and a lot of hypertrophy from the eccentric part of the rep. You've got the pause at the bottom or the pause at the top, which is an isometric contraction, and then you've got the concentric, where you're just shoving it back up. So tempo is a way you can create more muscle damage and more activation, more stress in a sensible manner to build that picture of great execution. And with execution, you should aspire to have perfect technique. But if you don't work your exercises following the fibers, you're not working the muscle effectively. So, for example, the biceps go vertically, so you would never do a movement which is, like this. However, let me just talk about an example of how I can actually. So you stood like this, right? Thumb position, normal. Obviously, with perfect posture, your thumb position would be here, and that means your bicep curl like that. But we know our shoulders are slightly rounded, so an optimal bicep curl will look something like this. Anyway, I'm not going to get too nitty gritty because I do like to get excited, and if I do get too excited, rein me in the comments. Give me it, boys. Anyway, that's the 4th one. Gentlemen, 4 points. Literally the most important things. Food, volume. What was the other one? Food, volume, intensity, execution. Are you doing all 4 of them? How long have you been doing all 4 of them? Are you seeing the results of doing all of them 4? Do you think that you have 4 that are better than that? Let me know in the comments below. Right, see you tomorrow.